All right, y'all, what's good, man? Listen, man, this is the first time ever I'm doing this, guys, but this will be a weekly thing. Every single week that there's a fight, we will be doing this. So make sure that you guys drop a like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, man. And it's very simple, guys. I'm going to be going through all of the fighters available on the card for UFC 290 in terms of DraftKings. You guys can enter whatever lineups you want to enter. They have a bunch of different ones. They have 200K to first place, 60K to first place, and it varies. So let's just get into it, guys. So first things first, we're going to start off with KAMUELA KIRK. Now, obviously, guys, I've done my research on all these fighters, so it's going to be a very, very in-depth breakdown of this. Not too long of a video, but we're going to just try to speed through. So in terms of DraftKings, guys, you want to go for players or fighters that score a lot or has the potential to score a lot in their matchup. And in this matchup, KAMUELA KIRK, he's just not a fighter that puts enough volume out there to be able to score this much. And he's also very low volume, as you guys can see, significant strikes. He hasn't even gone over 30, you know, so he's definitely not, a high-paced fighter. And the fight that he got the win over Amir Makwakani, I don't even think that he won that fight. So he's really not a good fighter, really not dangerous, too slow pace. And you would think he picks up the pace as the rounds goes on, but he doesn't. So I wouldn't even say that he's worth the 7,700s because I just don't see how he can beat Esteban Rivabics. But if there was a chance, it would be takedowns. Now, he's never utilized takedowns before, but Rivabics' takedown defense seemed to be a little bit bad, but we'll get into that. Esteban Rivabics going up against, obviously, Mr. KIRK. Last fight he had against Radzhabov, this was a short notice fight that he took against Radzhabov, and he ended up getting taken down 11 times, but he still did outstrike Radzhabov, and he put up really decent numbers even though he was wrestled 11 times. He got taken down 11 times, and Radzhabov attempted to get him down 21 times. So he still is able to push the pace even when the pace is so high in a wrestling exchange. He's still able to strike at a high pace, and when you're going up against a guy like KIRK who just doesn't put enough pressure out there, and he's gun shy, he doesn't score well, this is the perfect opportunity for Esteban to score a lot of points. He likes to put the pressure on, push the pace, and he has high finishing ability. So he would be a great play at 8,500. Next up, we got Shannon Ross. Now, Shannon Ross, he's a pretty decent striker going forward, but going backwards, he turns into a brawler, not very accurate, and this is just not going to be a good fight for him. He's not going to be able to put the pressure on a guy who's looking to put the pressure on himself with wrestling exchanges. And when he's on the back foot, he's very inaccurate, very brawl-like, and his chin is going to be out there in the air. He basically doesn't really have much of a chin left. His last two wins, or his last two losses, were really bad finishes. So I just don't see how he's going to be able to do much of anything. Now, his takedown defense is at like 100% right now, but he hasn't faced anybody that is a wrestler like Jesus Aguilar. Jesus Aguilar is a 5'4", short, stocky wrestler. Not the greatest striker, but he is going to put the pressure on, and he is going to force wrestling exchanges. And like I said, when you put Ross on the back foot, he's very inaccurate, and he's not going to be able to do much of anything. Now, this fight that Jesus had against TATSURO TAIRA was on short notice, and he nearly got a guillotine choke on TATSURO TAIRA like right away. But that was like a Hail Mary because he knew it was a short notice fight, so it wasn't going to be good for him going later in the fight. So you could tell he has some form of good fight IQ there. So yeah, Jesus should be able to push the pace and get that W. Is he worth the 8,600? I'll say yes, he is worth the 8,600. Ross isn't worth the 7,600 because I just don't see how he's going to be able to be accurate on the back foot when he's pressured. He just doesn't have the ability to be accurate on the back foot. Next up, we got Terrence Mitchell going up against Simon. Now, Terrence Mitchell hasn't fought any good competition, to be honest, but he is sort of dangerous. He has 7 wins by knockout, TKO, and 7 wins by submission. Faced really low competition, but he's going up against Cameron Simon. Now, in terms of what he can be able to do, he is a little bit lengthy, so there may be a possibility for him to do something. I wouldn't say that he's worth it to be in your main lineup, but if you want to have like a dollar entry, I would say to make a lineup with Terrence Mitchell in it because there is a possible chance that he might be able to catch Simon. And the only reason I say that is because the fight that Simon had against Kozlov, he was in a bunch of bad positions. Obviously, he still got the win. He's really, really good at reversing positions. He's a great scrambler, obviously a great striker. But the thing about Simon is, like, for some odd reason in both of these fights, he's got fouls called on him, and I think he even got a point deduction in the Kozlov fight. So there's something with him and these fouls. He even had like 2 nut shots versus Mana Martinez. It was really, really weird. So he's young, but at the same time, he seems to be a little bit reckless. So things could get weird. That's why I said you might want to play Terrence Mitchell in like a dollar lineup or something like that, because who knows? Simon might do something idiotic. And for some reason, to me, guys, this card seems too good to be true. The way how I see the fights playing out, it seems like it's gonna be an easy night. That's what it seems like. But then again, it seems too good to be true. So, would I say that Simon's worth it? Yeah, obviously you should make a lineup with Simon in it. He's going up against a short notice guy who hasn't faced a level of competition that Simon is at. But because of the weird foul calls with Simon and things like that, who knows? He could get DQ'd. The fight could be stopped. You never really know. So play Simon cautiously. That's what I would say in terms of DraftKings. Play Simon cautiously. Next up, we got Marcin Prachnio, and I would say just fade. Do not play Marcin Prachnio. Do not play him at all. In his last fight versus William Knight, he went up against a guy that didn't want to fight, and he pretty much just stood on the outside. And like the majority of his strikes that he landed were kicks. So he didn't even put the pressure on a guy in William Knight who didn't want to fight, and he ended up only scoring 62. That would have been a perfect, this would have been a perfect time for him to put it on William Knight and put up some good points. And even at 7,200, I just don't see a way how he's going to be able to win the fight against the guy he's going against. This fight, he lost a decision to Felipe Lins. Then he beat Charlie Villanueva, or I don't even know if his name is Charlie. I forgot what his name is, but I remember Villanueva. He was like on the way out, just getting finished by pretty much everybody. The Khalil Roundtree win was pretty decent, but overall in terms of his points and things like that, he's gotten finished a ton, right? And he's just not a guy that's reliable to score. And the guy that he's going up against, this guy should be able to get the finish, guys. Like, I'm telling you right now, this guy throws with 90% power pretty much the entire fight. He has the ability to get takedowns. He has the ability to reverse positions. He has the ability to lay on top. And this is just extremely too dangerous for Prachnio. As I just showed you guys, Prachnio's been knocked out 3 times. This VITOR PETRINO should be in your lineup, guys. He should be in your lineup at 9K, especially with all these guys on the card that are worth so much in terms of DraftKings points. If you play PETRINO, you should be, I don't want to say separate yourself from the pack, but I think he's going to be highly played because he's very, very live to get a finish. And he just has too many ways that he can win the fight against Prachnio, against a guy in Prachnio who's just not confident in his chin to, get in any real exchanges. He's going to sit on the outside. So fade Prachnio. Do not play him at all. And definitely make sure PETRINO is in whatever lineup you're making. He needs to be in it. Next up, we got Edgar CHAIREZ going up against TATSURO TAIRA on short notice. Now, Edgar CHAIREZ is he's pretty tough. He lost his Dana White Contender Series fight versus Clayton Carpenter. So he's a pretty good striker. But when Clayton Carpenter wanted to get the takedowns, he was able to get the takedowns. And that's the biggest part of why you should not play Edgar. You should not play him because TATSURO TAIRA is going to go for takedowns quickly. Because that's where he's good at. That's where he thrives. That's where he shines. So if a guy's being controlled on the ground, he's not going to score much of anything. So there's no real shot for CHAIREZ to win this fight. So I would say just completely fade him, to be honest. In terms of TATSURO TAIRA, obviously, he's 9,600. I would say out of all the people that are expensive, you got Simon at 94, you got Bo Nico at 98, you got Jack or JDM at 97. I would think that TATSURO TAIRA is the most safest one out of all of them because of who he's going against and because it's a short notice fight. It's a short notice fight against a guy. Also, guys, it's going to be at catchweight. So it's not even going to be at 125. It's going to be at catchweight. So this is even better that it will be at catchweight because TATSURO TAIRA was preparing for a fight about 2 weeks ago, I want to say, and his opponent pulled or whatever. So he's going to go out there. He's going to go get the takedowns on CHAIREZ when he wants because CHAIREZ is susceptible to those. And then he should be able to score really, really well, at least 100 plus. So he's going to be the most safest pick out of the high price players on this entire slate. So next up, we got Alonzo MENIFIELD going up against Jimmy CRUTE. Now, first things first, right? Alonzo MENIFIELD had 58 fantasy points in a draw. If he would have won a decision, he would have had 88 fantasy points. Jimmy CRUTE had 62 or 63. So if he would have won, he would have got 93. So in terms of DraftKings, he really was supposed to win that fight if there had not been that point deduction, right? In terms of DraftKings. But in terms of the judges, they were gonna give the fight to Alonzo Menifield had he not got that point deduction. So this is gonna be really weird, guys. But obviously, I think that this fight right here will be optimal because both guys have the ability to score a lot. Either Jimmy CRUTE is gonna be able to get the takedowns and avoid the damage and get a lot of control time, or Alonzo Menifield is actually just gonna be able to knock Jimmy CRUTE out pretty quickly, or put the damage on him and get him out of there. So guys, choose your side. This one is a little bit difficult for me to decide, to be honest, but I would say just choose your side for one of these guys because this price range right here tends to always be optimal, the 8K to 8.2K. So it's up to you guys, but one of these guys is going to score well. Either Jimmy CRUTE is going to get the takedowns and control time, or Alonzo Menifield is going to be able to get him out of there. So I'm a little bit leaning towards the Menifield side, but it's up to you guys. Definitely, you got to just choose a side between these two guys right here. Next up, we got Denise Gomes going up against my baby Yasmin Uruguay. But we're going to talk about her in a minute. But the thing with Denise Gomes, she's very dangerous because she puts the pressure on. She pushes the pace. She's going to push forward, and she's going to get in the pocket with heavy damage, heavy power. And yeah, she's always a fighter like this is always going to be live to get a finish, guys. So yes, she will be worth it to play in some lineups. Do I say you put her in your 200K lineup? It's up to you guys. Like if she gets a finish, she is going to be a low percentage used fighter, so it's going to be worth it. That's how you gain leverage. So I would say that she's going to be worth it. And the reason being, even though Yasmin Uruguay is my baby, she's my baby, she can get hit. In her last fight versus Nunes, she got dropped. Obviously, she ended up winning that fight handily. She got 2 knockdowns, got some good control time, and scored very, very well. Once again, guys, I would say this is kind of like a choose your side, but I would say that Yasmin should be able to get the finish because I just think that Denise Gomes is going to put herself in harm's way, and Yasmin Uruguay is just, she's tough, and she's more technical than Denise Gomes, but it's women's MMA, and all it takes is for Denise Gomes to land that same kind of wild shot or something precise on Yasmin like Estela Nunes did, and Denise Gomes could literally get a knockout. So this one, I feel like one of these might be optimal. If anything, I think Denise Gomes maybe, but this is a kind of choose your side, but I'm leaning towards Yasmin Uruguay heavily. It is worth it to play Denise Gomes because she can get a knockout. She probably is one of the more live underdogs on the slate, so it's up to y'all. Next up, we got JOSIAH Harrell going up against Jack Della Maddalena, and this guy, he's good with the wrestling, so you never know. Maybe if the fight wasn't a short notice fight, maybe he'd have a slight bit of a chance, but I don't think he's going to be able to stand and strike with Jack at all. And I think Jack will have decent enough takedown defense to avoid being like controlled or whatever, because this is a short notice fight. So there's no way that Jack should be able to lose this fight. If he does, that's going to be ridiculous. But weird things happen in MMA every now and then, so you never really know. But is it worth it to play JOSIAH? I would say no, because he's live. He's basically probably not going to score anything, because I don't see him being able to control Jack for the 3 rounds straight on short notice. It's just not going to happen. Now, in terms of Jack, very dangerous. All of his wins have been come by first round. Even in the win versus Randy Brown, he dropped Randy Brown, got a sub. The guy's just powerful and dangerous, man. And I don't think that a short notice fighter is going to be able to really do much for him. JOSIAH has the wrestling ability, like I said, but it's just not going to be enough to be honest. And I think Jack should be able to get this fight over with pretty quickly. Now, is he going to be worth the 9,700? I think, yeah, but at the same time, you have to think about it. Once you use fighters like this, guys, how good will your other fighters be on the slate? And to be honest, the underdogs on this card aren't that great of options anyway. So it's like, do you really want to play such a high guy like Jack, and then all of a sudden you have to rely on getting one of the fighters that's in the 7,000 ranges, and they're not really worth it. KIRK's not worth it. Ross is not worth it. Mitchell's not really worth it. PRACHNIO's not worth it. So like, where's the room to like make a good lineup if you're putting Jack in your lineup? I don't really know. So that's up to you guys. But next up, we got Robbie Lawler going up against NIKO Price. Now, I think that Robbie Lawler is going to get ran over. And the reason why I say it, guys, the only win that Robbie Lawler has had since 2017 has been against Nick Diaz, a guy who didn't fight for 6 years and came into the fight out of shape. And had Nick Diaz actually been in shape, he would have actually finished Robbie Lawler. It's just that he pretty much quit. Like, he literally just quit. Like, that was the literal definition of a guy quitting. He just kind of sat down and kind of just stared up and just didn't get back up. And it was just ruled a TKO. And we saw what happened to Robbie Lawler in his last fight versus Bryan Barberena. He had a little bit of good exchanges at first, but when you put the pressure on Robbie, He's going to start bobbing and weaving. And at this point in his career, guys, he's taken so much damage. I just don't see him being able to get out of this fight versus a guy like NIKO Price, who's very wild and out of control. Now, obviously, NIKO Price is not some type of granite chin kind of guy. He's been finished himself before also, but he's younger. He's wild. Very, very, very out of control. So guess what? He can definitely get the finish. He can get the finish, guys. This guy will get finishes from weird positions. Now, he was even winning the fight against Philip Rowe. Philip Rowe happened to miss weight, so maybe that could have saved him. Maybe he would have got finished had he made weight, you know, the proper weight cut. But he missed weight. NIKO Price was winning the fight, and he ended up getting finished. But Philip Rowe is a younger fighter. You know, power is there. Robbie Lawler is not. It's not the same. So I see NIKO Price being able to get the finish. But I'll be honest with you guys though. Robbie Lawler will be worth it in some lineups because there is a random possibility that since this is his last fight, he could get that storybook ending, even though it usually doesn't go like that for UFC fighters that took a lot of damage. I mean, recently we've seen it happen with Frankie Edgar. But yeah, there's a chance that Robbie Lawler could get a finish. NIKO Price is not the best guy in terms of a chin. He's been knocked out multiple times, so there's a chance there. So it would be worth it to play Robbie Lawler, and it's also worth it to play NIKO Price. I think both of these guys are worth it to play. If you're looking for one to choose, I'm more on the NIKO Price side because Robbie Lawler has way more damage on him, and you know he only has one win since 2017, and no real wins over any real guys since then. So yeah, like choose wisely. Next up, we got Woodburn versus Bo Nickal, and I'm just gonna make this very simple. Woodburn is strong, he's powerful, he's a striker. He could land a random knockout shot on Bo Nickal, but he's able to get controlled in the cage fairly easily. So to me, that should just make this fight very, very simple. Bo Nickal's going to close the distance. Either he's going to get that control time on the cage and get him down, or he's going to shoot in the open, get Woodburn to the ground, and finish the fight quickly. It's that simple. Woodburn is not worth it. If you want to put money on him on like a money line, maybe, because he's like at a plus 1,000. So, I mean, why not? But if we're talking about DraftKings, he's not worth it at all. And in terms of Bo Nickal, same thing like with Jack. If you put this guy in your main lineup, understand that the rest of the slate for the lower guys in 7,000 ranges is not good. Almost all of them should lose their fights. So if you have Bo Nickal in your lineup, how can you have a good lineup made all around? I really don't know. But next up we got Dan Hooker going up against Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner did miss weight by about 2 pounds, so that's definitely a bummer. That's like a little bit. You know, it kind of has me on the edge about what could possibly happen. But Dan Hooker has not been the same. Listen, since Dan Hooker has fought Paul Felder, he has been the same. That Paul Felder fight was a war. The Dustin Poirier fight was a war. And even though he lost, he scored really well. Like, he scored really well in that Dustin Poirier fight. Chandler fight, he got KO'd. Hasparak is, really not that great of a fighter. He was on his way up at one point, but then he kind of just fell off a cliff. And Dan Hooker actually utilized wrestling in this fight, in which he usually does not do. Makhachev, obviously, Dan Hooker took that on short notice, so you can't knock him for that. He got destroyed by Arnold Allen on short notice. So he's taken a lot of damage, guys. Dan Hooker has taken a lot of damage in his career at this point, and his win over Claudio Puelles was against a guy that he just didn't want to fight. Claudio Puelles didn't want to be there, and all Dan Hooker really did was just sit on the outside trying to be a sniper. So, to me, I think that, before the weigh-ins, I would say Dan Hooker wasn't worth it. But now that Jalen Turner actually missed weight, I would say that Dan Hooker is kind of worth it because he has, he's experienced. He's been in the top 5 before. He's fought former champions, whatever, all that great stuff. And, with Jalen Turner missing weight, there does open up a chance that maybe Dan Hooker could possibly do something. But Jalen Turner is just extremely dangerous, right? He's been very, very, very almost flawless at lightweight. He's only lost to wrestlers. Like in the Fervolo fight, he got out-wrestled. And in the Gamrot fight on short notice, he just got out-wrestled. Do I think that Dan Hooker is going to try to implement that game plan? Maybe, maybe not. Jalen Turner's pretty dangerous on the ground with the subs, getting a lot of guillotine chokes and stuff like that. So I can see Jalen Turner putting the pressure on Dan Hooker, being in his face, throwing out that power. And with all the damage that Dan Hooker has taken recently, I just see Jalen Turner being able to get Dan Hooker out of there. But because of the weight miss, there's just a weird question mark there now that's kind of like, all right, man, like, how is this fight going to go now? Like, you got guys missing weight. So what's really going to happen? I am not sure, to be honest, but we're just going to have to find out. So next up, also, in terms of, the worthiness of these guys, I would say Jalen Turner should be in your lineup. Dan Hooker should be played on some lower, lower ranked lineups, but it is what it is. Next up, we got Dricus du Plessis versus Robert the Reaper, Bobby Knuckles Whittaker. Let me tell you guys something right now. Dricus du Plessis, he's one of the more live underdogs on this card. I know some people may not believe that or understand that, but listen, the guy's dangerous, right? Rob Whittaker can get hit. Obviously, Rob Whittaker's flawless at middleweight besides losing to Izzy twice. But Dricus du Plessis is dangerous, man. And he was fighting not being able to breathe through his nose. He got a surgery. He can breathe through his nose now. That's going to change your performance. So people can't be shocked if Dricus du Plessis comes out there and hurts Whittaker, jumps on some takedowns, does weird stuff. Do I think he's going to be able to take down Whittaker? Nah, not really. But there's a chance. And with a card like this, where all the underdogs are not looking too great to play on DraftKings, du Plessis might be one of the guys that you could say, like, he might be worth it. Just maybe, might. Not too heavily, but maybe. Now, in terms of Robert Whittaker, he should win this fight. He should dominate this fight. I mean, the guy's just too good. That's the biggest problem here. He's just too good. He's the third greatest middleweight of all time. In his fight versus Gaslam, it was kind of just like how, how du Plessis should try to win the fight, put the pressure on Robert, get in his face. But Robert Whittaker can fight going forward. He can fight going backwards. He has a crazy jab, crazy 1-2s followed by high kicks, head kicks. He has insane timing on takedowns. So if you're putting yourself in position to be taken down, he will be able to shoot perfectly and get takedowns on you. And du Plessis is a guy that puts himself in positions to be taken down. So Robert Whittaker is going to definitely, he should be able to get the win. Now, in terms of points, Robert Whittaker is not a guy that scores a ton of points. 5-round fight versus Gaslam. That's where he was able to score all those points. But in 3-round fights, guys, he's just not dangerous. He's just not scoring the points. Now, because Dricus du Plessis does throw himself out there, there is a chance that Robert Whittaker could get a finish. So just because he hasn't scored a lot doesn't mean he won't get the finish. And would I say he should be in your lineup? I think maybe, yeah. Maybe, because Dricus du Plessis, I feel like he's going to put himself out there. Like, either he's going to get the finish or he's going to get himself finished. So it's up to you guys, man. Do what you please with that one. Next up, we got Alexander Pantoja versus Brandon Moreno. Now, Alexander Pantoja is the most worth it guy you should take in the 7,000 ranges because he's already beat Brandon Moreno twice. He's dangerous. Brandon Moreno is also dangerous on the ground, but when he tries to get Pantoja on the ground too, it just doesn't work out. Pantoja is a great scrambler. He's great on the ground himself, and he seems to have the striking advantage over Brandon Moreno every time they have their fights. So I would say that Pantoja is 100,000% worth it. I would say he should be in your lineup for sure because he's one of the only 7,000 range guys that has like an actual legitimate chance to win. He's already beat the guy twice. So if he beats him a third time, we can't be shocked and surprised. But Brandon Moreno, is he worth the 8,700? I would say maybe. Yeah, maybe because 8,700, he might score in the 90s, towards that range there. But he's not really scoring nothing too crazy. I would say Brandon Moreno is kind of worth it. He could get the win, obviously. People kind of forget the whole Figueiredo series that Brandon Moreno had for the past 3 years. He actually lost the first fight. It was only a point deduction that saved him. So this is considered to be a loss to Figueiredo. So he's really 2-2 versus Figueiredo. And in the fight with with Kai France, he was losing the fight. Then he landed a great body kick a great body kick, got the finish. But he already beat Kai France before. So now that he's going up against a guy that he had lost to in Pantoja in 2018, he only scored 29 points. I know they have 5 rounds to work, but styles make matchups, and I just don't think that this is a good matchup for Moreno. So I don't even know if he's really worth it. I would say probably not. Last but not least, we got Yair Rodriguez versus Alexander Volkanovski. And now I would say that Yair is also going to be the second guy that is 100,000% worth it. He's wild, insane. He get finishes from weird angles. I remember watching this fight back in 2018 versus Chan Sung Jung. He was going to lose that fight. And what did he do? Landed a random backwards, upwards elbow. Got the finish. This second fight he had versus Jeremy Stephens, insane strike, and go watch the fight. The fight he had against Max Holloway in a loss. Guys, I want you to understand. In a loss, him putting up 81 is perfect, right? And now he's 7K, right? When he went against Max Holloway, he got taken down 3 times, and he was still able to put up 81 fantasy points, guys. That's literally perfect. So him being 7K he's gonna be optimal unless Volkanovski just lays on him, and or gets him out of there early. Like, that's the only way he's gonna end up obviously not being too worth it. But I don't think any of the other guys that's in 7,000s have much of a chance outside of Pantoja. He has the realest chance. Everybody else is kind of like Duplessis is kind of Denise Gomes is kind of It's kind of like a hopeful thing. But yeah, he should be able to score if this goes 5 rounds, and he even has a chance to win, guys. So having Yair for 7K is 1,000% worth it, especially on this slate. And it's the same thing for Volkanovski. I think there's gonna be a lineup that has Volkanovski and Yair in it. I'm gonna make a lineup like that because I feel like Volkanovski can just, you know, he's not super dangerous. He's not out here just finishing people. The only person he's finished was Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. But even then, he still scores a ton of points when he fights against everybody else when it goes 5 rounds. So I can see this fight going 5 rounds. Either that, and Volkanovski's able to get the takedowns, be safe on the feet with the striking. He might get hit a few times, but I can see Volk being able to put up a ton of points. And the same thing for Yair. He can still put up points if this goes 5 rounds. So that's gonna do it, man. That's gonna do it for the video, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, you guys already know what to do. Drop a like, comment, subscribe. And yeah, good luck to anybody who's gonna be playing DraftKings. It's like you gotta play chess, man. You gotta play shogi. If you know, you know. You gotta play chess. So drop a like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video, man. Peace.